Hi, Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert. And we are at one of my favorite times of the day. And I have to tell you, I've had a great day so far, where we get to speak to a leader about their values and really take a peek under the hood. I've got Christine Campbell Rapin with me today. Christine, hi, and welcome.
Whoop, whoop. Super excited to be here.
I'm excited. I'm very excited to have you here. And what I want to just ask you the question, I'll toss it over the fence. Who are you?
Well, I am a human being. Let's start with that. I'm a human being calling planet Earth home, and I play in the world of business. I am a business strategic advisor, mentor to small businesses, and I have a real passion that business is elegantly simple. And I want to see a heck of a lot more people succeeding in their goal to create ripples of change and be the leaders that they want to see in the world.
Okay. I'm going to say good. And tell me a little bit more about what does it mean for you to be a human being?
To me, is first off, it is show up. And we talked about this morning. I actually had a great conversation with one of my clients. I said, authenticity is often faked. Authenticity is about truly being present and not letting the outside world cast the shadows of who you should be, how you should say it, where you should play, and what it looks like. It is true ownership of I am right in the right place, right at the right moment, everything is all okay. And truthfully, all I need to do is breathe, show up, and trust that there's a bigger picture happening. It's not mine to hold it. So just lean in and recognize being is what you're here for.
Right. Right. So, by the way, outside of the quote unquote work thing, who are you?
Well, I'm a multifaceted individual. I'm a Canadian born, love to passionately find the best patios around the world. Love to be outdoors. I have an amazing husband, bonus daughters. I have an amazing brother who lives on a boat halfway around the world most of the time. 2 sets of great, amazing parents. And I've always had this philosophy. You asked me what it was like to be human. I've always thought that my goal in life is to build my own version of the United Nations so that I could have a network of people all around the world. And if I was traveling or sending people or just generally curious, I could reach out to my network and say, where's the great coffee shop? Where's the pharmacy? Where do I find a bookstore? And what do I need to do that it's about this town? And then whatever the advice I was given, I just went and did it. And so that's me on the side outside of business. I'm building a network of the United Nations.
I love that. Okay. So when you talk to your clients about authenticity, one of the things there are 10 values of credibility. Authenticity is one of them. The thing is, authenticity isn't necessarily good, right? So you got to be talking to your people about authenticity. Just is. It is, for those paying attention, authenticity is also the most manipulative of emotions there are. Because if you're authentic, whether it's good or bad, you're pulling people in. So then when you talk to your clients about being good, what do you talk about? What does that mean to them? What does that mean to you?
Well, to me, the first thing about authenticity is integrity of self. I always say all of my big life decisions have always happened with me looking in the mirror at myself, holding my gaze and asking myself in an integrity question, can I hold my gaze? Which means I was authentic in alignment with my truth. Or am I shying away from it? And this comes from what my dad said when I was very young. And my dad always said to me, only you know your whole story. And I've moved around a lot. I've lived in 5 countries, 30 cities, some of them more than once. He said, nobody will know the whole story of what's made Christine who she is now. And you get to choose what you take with you. You get to choose what you share. And that's the manipulation part of the story. But my dad said, at the end of the day, when you're brushing your teeth and you're having conversations with God, you get to decide, did you show up in integrity with who you are? And did you treat people with human kindness? And if you have fallen short, you can't quite hold your gaze, you get to have a conversation with God about that. And if you're blessed to live another day tomorrow, you get to try again.
Man, we could stop right now. That's pretty cool.
Well, that was like, lessons from my father. I should really write a book because I've been so blessed to have two amazing parents. But my dad has been one of the biggest people who've shaped how I see the world. And, I used to say to him when I was young, it's hard. And he's like, nobody promised you it would be easy. You're capable, stretch. And the big conversations, whenever I've had to make big pivots or I've made big decisions, they come quickly because I'm looking at the mirror and saying, is this who you want to be?
Mm.
Drop your BS. And when I made the decision to come into entrepreneurship, I could hear myself justifying the no. And it was like the traditional, really acceptable excuse is like, it's a money thing, it's a time thing. And I'm like, those are constructs. Are you the person who gives the easy excuses? Is that who you are and who you want to be in the world? And in a nanosecond, I'm like, nope. So I sent a WhatsApp and said, I'm in. And then I literally left brushing my teeth to go down in the morning to get a cup of tea. My then fiance was making coffee. And I said to him, as I was like reaching for a cup, by the way, I've just started a business. He's like, you did what? Like, I just left you brushing your teeth. I'm like, I had a moment. I had a moment in the mirror and I'm like, I don't want to be that person. I spent more on pizza yesterday. So this is not a money conversation. And yes, I've got a million things on my plate, but you do the things that matter. And this mattered to me. So I say, get out of your own damn way and decide and move.
Nice. Well, he knew what he was getting into.
Well, the funny thing is like, we're about to be married. We should probably have had a conversation about this. And I joke and I said, like, you've been married before and I had not. And I said, if there's rule books, you need to tell me because it didn't occur to me. And I don't mean that ignorantly. I just honestly, it had never occurred to me that I should check my decision because it was about who am I being? And to the point of I want to be human. I'm like, I was being me, where I was like, nope, that I need to do this. And that was my answer. He said, well, what does this mean for us? I said, truthfully, I commit to this 1 hour a day. That was my commitment when we started. And I'm doing this for me. And he's like, okay, then how do we support it? Very lucky in that choice. But that's how it all started back in 2018.
I love that. But that's exactly what a good marriage is all about. What does that mean to me? How do I support you? Love those. My wife is the most credible human that I know on the planet. I get a lot from her just in terms of how she would work and answer questions regarding lots of things that happen in the business world, even though that's not her expertise.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. Whenever I've pontificated about my own big decisions, he's all like, what advice would you give your clients? What advice would, like, just take it yourself. You know the answer. And usually that's been a really uncomfortable moment. I'm like, you're right. I'm justifying. And truthfully, there was a moment during the pandemic when he happened to share an office with me. And he's like, I had no idea you talk so much because I'm an introvert. You find that shocking now, but this is true. And he's like, I heard you saying to somebody, though, that you're doing this for me, or you're doing this so that we can support our aging parents. And I was in this moment where I was like, I have to have the flexibility because my life many times was going sideways for health reasons and people that I really cared about. And so I started to make that really convenient excuse. It was about other people. And he's like, I'm just going to call you on this because it's not true. Like, it's not that you don't support us, but truthfully, when you look at your vision board and you look at this, what you're creating, that it feels like oxygen for you, you're doing it for you. And when I remind you, when you started the journey, it was because of you. And I know every leader that I've had the privilege that I say is excellent at leadership and has great integrity that I respect. It's always been when there's been a choice where they say, I am doing this for me because you're the engine. As a human being, you can manipulate, you can do other things, but truthfully, you got out of bed today. You're biologically wired to breathe today. How do you want to make impact? Those are personal choices. And if you make choices that are in alignment, hopefully at the end of your day, when you're looking at the mirror, you can hold your gaze.
It's about a level of clarity and understanding what you're doing means in terms of how you're interacting with others.
Yeah. Well, and exchange is everything. Like, we're not on this journey by ourselves. And it can be a lonely journey. That's what I was chatting about with somebody this morning. We had a prompt and it was about this journey's lonely. And there's an expression that says it's lonely at the top. And there's truth to that. But it's not the only place that's lonely. So how can you be in connection with self, with others? And honestly, who do you want to play with? Like, this is life. Like, let's play with people you want to play with.
Man, see, by the way, just for those paying attention, Christine had me on her show and I go, yeah, no, I loved it. Thank you. And you need to come back on mine. And it wasn't, it's not because I wanted to do the reciprocal thing, although I'm honored to be of service that way. I just like how you show up.
Thank you.
And there are a lot of people who do stuff that's similar to you. There's nobody like you, of course. but a lot of people do things similar to you, but you came across differently to me. Why do you think you come across differently to your clients?
I think it's ownership. And what I mean by that is I am really certain, and this is where you and I connected because we both talk a lot and help our clients a lot with clarity. And it's like, I am really clear that I'm a work in progress. I'm really clear that I'm embracing the evolution. And I'm really clear that I'm a hot mess, but I'm direct. And I say to people of all of my life, you know, I am not the person to come with if you to talk, brainstorm, or vet an idea if truth isn't what you want, because I don't have that desire to be artificial because it stands against my integrity. And so I won't. And that's uncomfortable for people, but I'm okay with that. And I said, it's about being direct. And I said, I truthfully own the real fun successes and the real, wow, that was knives in my back. And I carry the scars and go, okay, well, what did I learn? How do I want to show up next? And I think there is people come to me often and say, the thing I like about you is you're clear. And what I mean by that is the energy is certain. Certain I'm a work in progress, but certain I'm also, I don't have anything to hide.
It's interesting. We've been taught. So one of the things we've been taught is if you're the leader, if
Mhm,
you're the if you're the coach, if you're the teacher that starts
mhm,
from school, you got all the answers.
mhm,
And by the way, I find what you just said valuable. I just want to say this for everyone. If you're the leader, it's okay to say, "Hey, I'm a hot mess in this area,
mhm.
but I'm doing all this other stuff." That level of vulnerability, that level of integrity, knowing who you are and how you show up, both internal and externally, is really powerful. When did you realize you just need to be you?
I think quite young because I said I'm an introvert, and I painfully hid between my mother's legs whenever I was in a new school, trying to find friends before recess. And my biggest concern, as most adults is what if nobody wants to play with me? And I still feel that way a lot in my life, even as an adult. And
Mm.
that's why I said building a community and saying, that you'll be surprised who goes
All
with
right,
you.
count me in anytime. You got something going on, count me in.
Thank you. And and when you move a lot, and I said that, my dad's story about, who do you want to be? I had to go into a lot of new environments where like I literally got on skates and played a sport I'd never even heard of and got a rule book. And it was like, you've joined this team and you're going to go do this. And I hated that truthfully at the time, but it taught me a lot. What it's taught me as like I got into my 20s, 30s, and beyond that was I know this much. And that's where people really connect to the certainty. It's like, I know this much, but I have a real awareness that I don't know it all. And so when I've come into, whether it's a leadership role in the world of corporate or whether it's coming in as a strategic advisor, it's like, you've asked me to carry this specific lens for you. And I'm really aware that everything else connects to it, but I have blind spots all around me. So I go into it with help educate me, help me understand what I'm not seeing. And from this really short lens, this is what I see. And confidently owning that opinion. And in the world that's quite, nobody wants to own an opinion these days. That doesn't help you. I'm not saying my opinion's right. It's just the opinion I have. Challenge my expectation.
Hmm.
Ask questions. Figure things out. Like two brains are better. That's also the connectivity we talked a little bit about earlier. But because I was always curious what was around the corner, I had a real awareness that there was a blind spot coming. And so when I'm in great collaborations now, I often pick strong, powerful people with their certainty and say, you and I might think similarly, but different. Help me see my blind spot. And when people, I've always, like when I've led teams, I've always said, I am in the leadership role, but truthfully, all of us will have days that we're going to fall apart. And so our rule in the team was to know each other. And if it was your day, we'll support you. And if it was my day, you know what, give me some grace too, because I am just a human. And I also had real awareness because I was constantly moving. When I looked at my parents, I realized they were people pretty young. I was a bit about 16 when I realized my dad was a person outside of being my dad.
That's
And
impressive,
his
by the
story was
way.
not a clean, life was perfect, dad was a hero story. And I was like, I had to really reconcile that. It's like, wow, you are the black sheep in a lot of your stories of, we should do this, but don't do that. You did not play by the rules. So it was early lessons.
So I'm trying to put my arms around what was your kryptonite? What was that thing when you were younger that really stood in the way and you've overcome that?
I'm going to think a big part of the kryptonite was seeking for the gold star. I don't know if I've overcome it, truthfully, but I grew up, with high expectations. And because you were constantly new, it was like you're going to try a new thing and be good at it quickly so that I could, keep friends in different places. So I really had that quest to get the gold star. And that meant being perfect or being the first or being successful. And when I was young, it was just, well, why would you show up to be anything other than great? And that was sort of, conversations that were all around me at the time. As you got older, it was also this need to do this gold star doesn't last. And under real
Mm.
awareness that, yes, we've climbed successfully, we hit the milestones, we get the benchmarks, but truthfully, it drives people crazy in the world of selling because I help people create client growth. I said, I'm not that interested in the sale. I mean, what I mean is I want the first sale, but I want to know where we're going to be in 10. And I don't chase money ever because I know it's an abundant thing. But I said, there's 3 things I want to feel good about. They're not the gold star from other people, but there are things like people coming to me saying, I got your name from someone. There's things like, I like your opinion on something, or I'd like to know what questions I'm missing. Because I said it means that they see me as a thinking partner, not as a transaction where I got the gold star. And I like that more. And I said, that's what motivates me. It's that communication, it's the connection, it's the I add value by thinking and giving an opinion. And I'm certain that when you come to me, you're aware that it might not be exactly what you want, but I have your best interest at heart. I'm never coming from a malicious place. I'm saying you ask me to shine a lens at you. This is what I see. Do with it what you will. But I want
Hmm.
to know where we're going to be long term. Like, I mean, sure enough, we all celebrate the small moments, but they're not the things that matter because the gold star never lasted. And I got lots of them, but they don't matter in hindsight.
All right. So 2 questions on the gold star. You could decide which one is more relevant. How did you get that? Like, what was that thing? Was that a parental thing or something else? And then the second, I still don't understand what happened when you realized, or what was there a particular thing that happened that you said, "Oh, I no longer need the gold star."
Yeah, I would say the first thing in a gold star was really when I was younger, and it was sort of an expectation around my family name, truthfully, because my dad was like, he'd been the black sheep, and so he was trying to, I think, in his own perspective, my interpretation here, he wanted to get his own gold star, and saying, so I went through the traditional hopes, get a good education, be top of your class, get the right job, climb the corporate ladder, and so we always had that expectation of, greatness awaits you, and it was
Hmm.
never about be great in this specific thing. It was whatever path you choose, we are behind you to be great at it. And so there was that expectation, but it was also, can't I just suck at something? And it was like, why? Why would you want to do that? And there was this really perplexed look when I remember. And I was probably 17 when I challenged my dad on that conversation. I said, sometimes it'd be great just to just not have to go for great, but just to be okay. And he's like, well, you can, but I don't know why you would. And I could feel the disappointment in that. Why would you want to do that? I don't understand. It does not compute. So that was the thing. So that's where it came from as an origin. And then for me, it was a real recognition when I had been through in my career. I've had some moments where I've been kicked to the curb, and had some things, not go my way. And when I was down at the very bottom, literally and figuratively, and it was like there, they never gave me the gold star. Right? The gold star wasn't given, and something had happened, and I was on the floor trying to decide how to get up, and could I get up? And at that point, it was like, what matters more, their gold star or how you see yourself? And there was a moment in my
Mm.
career. I've talked about it in a book, that my first book that was published, in a chapter, and it was, I was let go from a job, and I did not understand, did not see it coming, and I was let go 1,400 kilometers away from home. They flew home right away, and I had to spend 17 hours before I could have that same opportunity. And I spent the night on a hotel bathroom floor. Life imploded.
Mm.
Fast forward a couple months, and the person in my team who worked for me called me and said, "The job hasn't been filled. Would you help me get it? I want the job
Wow.
that you used to hold." And I remember at the time saying, "I'm so destroyed that this job had imploded." And I was like, I really respect her tenacity and audacity. And I remember sitting there really hard going, what kind of gold star matters? Their opinion that you didn't have the job anymore, or the person you could be if you could help her? I did help her. She did get the job. And I was like,
Wow.
that was about who I wanted to be. And that was the moment I shifted back. I'm not chasing your gold star. It doesn't mean there's not damage still from it. But I also said, who do I want to be going forward? And I said, I want to be the person that, one, she would phone, and two, I would help, because while it wasn't my story, it could be hers. And she's done a great job in that role for many, many years. But I
Interesting.
had that moment of, who do you want to be? What star matters? You're giving the power away when you really, it no longer serves you to stay on the floor. It's time to get up.
Wow, that was a beautiful story. I love the oftentimes what I see for clarity is that somebody's kryptonite turned into their superpower. And in your particular case, you're really good. You're bright, obviously. You have lots of business models. You walk into a meeting without, even with all the frameworks that you have, without the answer. You're hearing the situation. And when somebody asks, you give them direct feedback and then giving them a potential opportunity for them to receive their gold star.
Yeah.
That's an interesting superpower.
Well, and it's sort of, where I, fast forward many, many years into the business I have now. It's like, I didn't get out of bed to mentor people. Like it was not a destination. It really came about through the fact that people saw me being successful and saying, what are you doing in small moments of time? And I said, I know how to create client growth. I know how to create revenue from everything I've done, 400 companies, $1 billion later. I said, this to me was simple. I knew how to get the gold star. And what I realized for a lot of people is they don't have the same business expertise, the same business background, the same education. And to them, it was perplexing. And I wasn't at all impressed with what I saw in the business coaching space, because I thought a lot of people were teaching something they did not ever experience, never walked the mile, never hired, fired, been sued, wanting to sue, all of the stuff that really happens, cash flow, ups, downs, all of it. And that is business. It doesn't matter. It's coming if it's not there today. It's so, spoiler alert. And when I was asked to help people, I would do it over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and said, no, this is the way I see the world, to the point. This is the way I see the world. And then people said, I can't apply this, but I can see you do it. And I know you have the ability to break it down and help others do it, because I've done it in the world of corporate. But I went to a mentor who loved coaching as an industry. And I went to him and said, I keep being asked and people want to pay me to do this. And he said, you are capable and you're being called to do that. You should step into it, because I know I would write you a $10,000 check. You can solve a $100,000 problem. And so it was that ability, yes, to guide people to, I want you to light up your future, vision, family, legacy, all of it. And I hope my expertise can help you do that. I can't lift it for you. And that's one of the first conversations I always have with people who come into my ecosystem and want to explore what it's like to collaborate in any capacity. You're the fuel source. You're the one who lights the fire. I'm oxygen to it, or my network is oxygen to it, because we can help you and maybe brighten the glow, but you're getting your own gold star, not me. I'm not giving it to you. I'm not doing the work for you. I'm not dangling it, with passive aggressive, you have to do it this way strategies. It's, how do you want to play? Go do it. I will help hold the vision when you need it, but it's your path.
That's interesting. I'm listening to you, and there was something I want to get out before I ask the last two like really cool questions.
Okay.
The thought I had was, coaching to me, when you think about coaching, is really a do-it-yourself model. I mean, you're stepping up there, you're listening, you're supporting, you're providing a framework, but it really is the person who's in there is really driving that change, that success.
Yep.
Is that what you see as well? It's because if people are coming in and go, hey, do it for me, it's not a done for you model. In some cases, it could be done with you. There are some coaches who do
And there's
that as
moments
well.
we do it with them. But that's
Yeah.
the often expectation. And people come and say, can't you just tell me what to do? And I said, I can give you my perspective of what's worked and I can help you ask questions and I can help you say, are we in integrity with what you told me your vision and what your actions are? And I'm the barometer. I said, I'm the lens. And my role when I'm in my business strategy role, I said, I'm advocating for the other side. What I mean by that is the buyer, the client. What are we doing to move somebody into your side? Because as you're so focused on your own lens that you're like, I just want to do. And I said, but how is it being received? So I'm playing that opposite side. And that's sometimes where people are like, I just want that, and that's where we've dumbed it down to this really awful banter that I see on the social platforms. It's these 3 steps. I said, yes, I said there's 3 business foundations, but those foundations are massive. They're not sprinkle 3 unicorns and add a lollipop to it and you're going to have $1 million business. It's a lot of questions. It's a lot of really simple questions that because they're so simple, you'll skate right by. So when people come into coaching, that it's a word like we talked earlier off camera. Mastermind's a real bastardized word. I said, what do you want from that person? What do you expect to get when you're working with your coach? I said, in my case, I said, I'm a mentor. I said, I'm going to give you access to my network. I'm going to help you build strategies. I'm going to give you a sounding board, but I'm also on occasion going to help you with your skill development. So say if you have the skill gap, we have to do this piece with you until you
Mm,
can build the capabilities, because my outcome is result driven and it's twofold in my case. One is how to create a client growth engine, but secondly, personally, what do I feel good when I put my head down at night is how to quickly make decisions that you feel are in the right alignment with you.
mm. Ugh. Oh, I can keep going on. So I have 2 questions. Hang out, guys. We 2 more. Before I ask the last really cool question, let me just say, if you're listening, you're watching, you're in the audience, and you are, or people are interested in reaching out to you, what is the best way to go about doing that?
Well, you got to fail to spell my name or find my name on the show notes here because it's called ChristineCampbellRapin.com. Come find me there.
Awesome. Simple.
Simple.
Yeah. See, we hadn't even talked ahead of time, and I have to tell you, the simplest thing, because sometimes I get people on the air and they rattle off like, oh, go to here and go to there and go to there. And it really comes down to, is there a place that represents you? And typically it's your name.com. So thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
I say the same thing. Find one thing and make it simple. You can then get there and figure out your path based on how you want to learn, exchange, and how you want to hide in the wilderness or get really front row.
For me, I'd say go to my website, mitchellevy.com. And if you like what you heard, book time on the calendar, right? And so it becomes very easy for people to exchange with you. Okay, so last question. Given this conversation and where it went, and I told you we'd have no idea where it's going to go.
Yep.
Is there a particular question you would like me to have asked you or ask you now that I didn't?
I think it's a simple question is how do you stay present when you are still in some ways driven to chase a gold star in the future?
Mm, man, I wish I thought of that question. That's a great question. So,
So now I have
Christine,
to answer it. Ooh.
and
I did
it's a
not think of this
perfect.
in advance. I knew you would throw me into it though.
No, I'm going to say it's a great question because it falls in line. As you're answering it, I just want to paint a picture for a second as you're listening to this response. It falls in line with the marketing cookie cutter approaches that we've given in life. That more is better, more money is better, more clients is better, more blah, blah, blah. Less time with your spouse is better. Well, no, not true. Right. So we're taught all these things to what do we need to do to get the gold star, and everything will be better once they get the gold star. So I love your question. So thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Now I'm like, how am I going to answer that? Truthfully, it is surrounding yourself with good people because we all have our biases, we all have our patterns, and in the person who's a vision and is often looking at the vision of other people's, it's where do you want to be right now? And so it's being around people who will call you truthfully in integrity on your BS, which is stop waiting for a future shot and take the shot today. And I get that advice at least several times a week from my coach and from my mentor. And the second thing is I'm reminded is that everything, especially this has been a conversation this week, everything that you want to birth or vision cast happens in the darkness. So you have to stay in the present, because the light that you're seeing is future forward. That gold star is bright in the horizon, but right now it's, what are you doing in the dark? And all of those things that don't get seen create the outcome. So for me, it's reminding myself life happens outside your comfort zone. Surround yourself with people who will pull your blind spots and say, hey, measurement is key, but what are you measuring? And the second thing is also, check in at the end of the day with the mirror and say, am I in the present? Am I proud with how I'm showing up? Am I being true to me?
And just tying back into the beginning of our conversation, are you being authentic to yourself?
Yeah. Being true to yourself. And I think truth is a superpower. And it's remarkable how often truth doesn't resonate, because it's a word we say, but not a word we act and do. And I think that's just a reflection comment. It's, you don't have to like my truth, but I have to live with mine.
Anyhow, I'm going to say you're amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And for those still watching and listening, there must have been at least one, for me, probably about 10 or 20 aha moments that got you as you were listening to this. This is now your time to spread some cred dust. That means sharing some ideas, thoughts, and actions from Christine. And Christine, thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you at the next episode of Leaders Living Their Values. Thank you so much for joining us today. Take care. Bye now.